You know, one of the most beloved images from the Bible is that of Christ as our shepherd. David reminds us in Psalm 100 that we are his people and the sheep of his pasture. Jesus says in John chapter 10, I am the good shepherd. The good shepherd lays down his life for his sheep. As the Father knoweth me, even so I know the Father, and I lay my life for the sheep. The relationship of believers with Jesus Christ is that of a sheep to a shepherd. The Lord is our shepherd. We are his flock. Christ has indeed been a good shepherd to us during these uncertain times. Under his care, we, his people, have been afforded peace. He has been our provider, our protector, and our deliverer. To those who have gone astray, he, the merciful shepherd, actively seeks and yearns for your return to the household of faith. Join me now as we listen to these testimonies which speak to the unconditional love, tender care, and mighty power of our good shepherd.
Coronavirus has been a good thing, and as strange and as bad as it may sound, it was so sudden for me. The first time I heard about it was in church, and I didn't expect it to get this bad. I had my own fears, and I thought that I may have just been driven further into depression, and my studies, I wasn't sure how I would cope with all these things. But it's given me a chance to talk to God more, and having family worship. From one of my devotions, I read a text, 2 Corinthians chapter 4, verse 8. We are troubled on every side, but not distressed. We are perplexed, but not in despair. That spoke to me. God is still here with me, despite my troubles and how confused I may seem. I am not totally lost, and I'm not totally drowned in sorrow. So I am just thankful to God for still being here with me. Despite the things I may do that may seem ungodly, he is still here to walk with me and to guide me back to him.
Good morning and happy Sabbath to all. Today I would like to testify of God's goodness towards me. Living here in an area which was once considered the epicenter of COVID-19, living in Brooklyn, New York, it was a bit unnerving and unsettling to see the freezer trucks parked outside of hospitals. It was a bit unnerving to hear the constant blur of sirens, ambulances going constantly throughout the day. But God has been good. He has kept me safe. Hearing the anticipated figure of deaths, the number of deaths they thought would occur in New York, it was mind-blowing, and it was a bit scary because being involved in the pantry and soup kitchen of the church I currently attend, at times I felt scared and wanted to decide, it's a bit too risky, I need to stay home. But God has kept me, and I kept going to the pantry to assist and volunteer. I kept going to the soup kitchen to help clean and organize them for us so that we might organize meals and distribute. And I think through it all, I know through it all, God has been good and kept me safe. And not just me, he kept the entire team safe. God built a shield around us, and He is so faithful that none of us have come down with the illness. And for that, I give God the glory, the praise, and it is my prayer that He would continue to keep me and keep others as we do His bidding, as we serve in this part of the vineyard. So to God be the glory.
What this COVID has done has came into our lives and done. February this year, I had damaged my knee, and I made an appointment for the doctor, and they told me that I would have to make the application for the doctor to read the stuff and then get back to me. Unfortunately, I'm still waiting. So we in March, I remember when I got the call that it is here. I was like, what is here? COVID has reached. So there was it that I didn't even get the opportunity to get my appointment up to now. And I was wondering, well, what will be my situation? But God has been so good in all that this is the fruits of my labor here in this garden. That many days I didn't feel good, with a lot of pain, but God has brought me through this. You understand? And so much so that I'm unemployed, but God have provided in all aspects of things. I have vegetables to give away. I have vegetables to myself. I probably could even go by the market and make a little sale. You understand? So I'm thankful. I'm thankful for God. And one of the texts that stood out for me is Ephesians 3:20. Unto Him that is able to do exceeding abundantly above all that we could ask or think, according to the faith that works in us. And I see this, I could have lied down and say, I'm not well. You understand? But God has showed me that we can do all things through Christ, which strengthens us.
I'm a retired electrical inspector. And this day, Friday the 13th, was the Sabbath weekend of communion. Whilst there, I realized, well, it's coming close to 12, you know, and I wanted to be done before 12. Well, I had a friend there, he was assisting me. I laid my ladder down on a wall about 5 feet in height, and the ladder itself is 17 feet in height. The guy who was with me, he left because he was assisting holding the ladder, and he left to go and do something, and I decided, well, I wouldn't wait on him, I continue pulling. Then something told me, all right, that's enough, you have enough cable, you know, so come down. And I decided to proceed down the ladder. Forgetting the ladder was placed in a slant position. My body way on the weaker side of the ladder, and it twisted. And from there, all I could see is heading for the ground, face down, with my hands out. Nothing in the hands or thing, but heading down. And I had to break this fall. When I hit the ground, I used my left hand to break the fall. Operating in a space between 6 feet, so I didn't have enough space because I was about 5 feet 6 in height. So from the time I placed my hand on the ground, it breaks the fall. My head hit a wall one time and bounced off, and I ended up on the ground. conscious of what's going on, I look at my hand, and when I look at my hand, all I could see is a big gash in the middle of the hand. At the time, I didn't know what cut me, but apparently it had a galvanized there. The ambulance was called, the ambulance came in. And reaching the Port of Spain General Hospital, I was questioned by a doctor, telling him, well, the height I fall from, and he asking me question about hurting, where hurting and where in hurting and thing. And I'm telling him that, but I'm telling him there's nothing more than the hands. I'm not feeling nothing in my back, my neck, nothing, you know. And he's amazed because he can't believe that a person falling from 17 feet in height to the ground could not be having problems. God is good because he pulled through for me. I wasn't expecting to be in the state that I was. I expect that maybe somewhere along the line, if not from the fall on the ground, but heading down to the hospital, I might have passed because of the height and everything. But that goes to show that God is alive. He's still saving life.
On Thursday, the 7th of May, Jerome, Kevin, and we decided to have a band practice at the church in order to prepare for the upcoming live stream on this Saturday. At the end of the band practice, as per normal, Jerome and Kevin, we stood outside the church and we chatted for a while, and we all left to go to our various homes in safety. But while on the way to my home, I had a very major accident which almost cost me my life.
I remember lying in bed, putting the girls to sleep, when I got a call from an unknown number. When I answered the phone, it was my husband, who I hadn't spoken to since that afternoon. He had left home to run some errands and then attend band practice at church. He told me that he had been in a bad accident and that he had no idea where he was.
To this very day, I don't know exactly how the accident occurred. I didn't hit another vehicle or hit any type of object. All I remember is that the car lost control, and as I woke up, I saw a number of fire officers, police officers, and different persons from the first response team trying to get me out of the vehicle.
When we got to the scene, we were shocked. The car was completely wrecked, but Atiba was awake and he was aware of what was happening. And so we talked to him until the fire truck came. And when the officials came, it took them about an hour and a half to cut him out of the wreckage because of how bad it was.
It was a very scary experience for me because, as I mentioned, I couldn't seem to understand what exactly was happening at that point in time. And as I thought about the experience at the time, I said to myself, Lord, why is this happening to me? I mean, I just came from band practice, came from serving you, and then this. As I sat there in the vehicle, the fire officers and they were with the jaws of life and trying to get me out of the vehicle, and I was in severe pain. And the only thing I could remember is calling out to God's name because of the amount of pain that I was in.
After he was removed from the wreckage, he was taken to Arima Hospital and then transferred to Mount Hope, where I saw him the following day. And he was fine, apart from sustaining injuries to his left leg. He had sustained a fractured femur, tibia, and ankle on the left side, and a dislocated elbow on the right. But apart from the pain of those injuries, he was fine.
At that point in time, as I mentioned to Tara, I felt as though I saw the face of death. And the only thing I could remember saying to her is, if anything happens to me or if I die, just take good care of the girls for me.
When I left him on Friday evening, I agreed to give him a call later that afternoon. But when I called him, he couldn't be reached. I tried all Saturday morning to call him. Again, he couldn't be reached. Saturday afternoon, I still couldn't reach him. And a call from his doctors that Saturday afternoon explained why. Atiba had slipped into a coma-like state, and he was not vocalizing at all, and he was barely responsive. At that point in time, I didn't really feel any emotion. I just felt this overwhelming need to pray. And when we left the hospital, I remember calling some friends of mine and asking them to say a special prayer for Atiba. Sunday afternoon, when we went to see Atiba, we were heartened by the fact that there seemed to be some improvement. His eyes were open for a lot longer, his arms were moving again, and I felt hopeful until a nurse came to me and she said to me, she asked me, does he have any children? And I said, yes, he has 2 girls. And she gave me this pitying look and shook her head as she walked away. Then when I was leaving, I spoke with the head nurse and I asked her whether his mother could come visit with him. She told me yes, and with solemnity in her voice, she said, given how critical the situation is, it may be best. And alarms went off in my mind. Critical? What do you mean critical? Atiba's not in critical condition. So immediately I picked up the phone and called my friend Crystal, who is a doctor, but who's also been a great source of encouragement and support during this time. And I asked her, I said, Crystal, is Atiba in critical condition? And she said to me, yes. For the first time since I saw him in the wreckage, I cried. I cried as though I was going to die. I couldn't believe that I had come this close to losing my husband. I remember that night I hardly slept, and I prayed and I pleaded with God to save Atiba's life. And when I felt as though I could pray no more, God gave me peace and I slept. On Monday morning, Atiba was scheduled to have surgery done. According to his doctors, he had developed a syndrome called fat embolism syndrome, which occurs when there is a breakage of a large bone in your body. So when I got to Mount Hope that morning, I met with his doctors and they gave me horrible news. They told me that between Sunday when I saw him and Monday morning, he became even less responsive. And they had called in the team from neurology to find out what had gone wrong. I felt so helpless. I walked to the elevator, I got into the elevator fully intending to go to the blood bank when this voice in my head told me to go see Atiba. It didn't make any sense because it was 9 o'clock in the morning and visiting hours were 4 to 6 only, and the nurses and security were very strict about that. But as I went up in the elevator, I remember asking God to soften the hearts of the nurses so that they would allow me to see him. And when I got to his ward, they did. I went in and I saw Atiba and I just started to talk to him. I told him, I don't know if he could hear me. I don't know what he's going through, but I wanted to let him know that he was loved and that there were people all over the world praying for him. Actually, our church, the Five Rivers SDA Church, had established that day as a day of prayer and fasting for him. And so I tried to reach him with words that only God could have placed in my mind. Then I played for him a song that was recorded that morning by one of his good friends, Kevin Thomas, and the song was God Will Take Care of You. Now that song has special importance because when they were pulling Atiba from the wreckage, that was a song that he was humming over and over again to stop himself from blacking out from the pain. And so as I played the song for him that morning, Atiba's eyes started to open and he started to cry. I was so excited. I said, Atiba, look, we are fighting for you on our end. We're praying for you, but you have to dig deep and you have to fight as well. The only way you're going to have surgery today is if you become more responsive. So when the neurology team comes, you need to talk to them. Atiba hadn't spoken in 3 days. How could I tell a man who had not spoken in 3 days that he needed to speak to doctors? But interestingly enough, when the team from neurology came and they asked Atiba how he was doing, Atiba said, I'm okay. I couldn't believe my ears. And so I said, what? And the lady, one of the members of the neurology team said, he said that he's okay. Because of that, the neurology team cleared him for surgery that morning. And so he was able to have his surgery done that Monday. We prayed and we fasted that day and we waited to speak with his doctors post-op. And they said everything went well. They were amazed at how easily they were able to realign the bones in his leg. They were amazed at how little blood he actually lost during the surgery. But I think what amazed them the most was the fact that there was such a vast change in Atiba's condition so soon after they had assessed him. And truthfully, that could only be God. We want to say thank you so much for your prayers and your support and your encouragement over the last few weeks. We believe that prayer turned the tide. It changed the face of everything in Atiba's situation, and we just want to say thank you, whoever you are, wherever you are, for your prayers and your support during this time.
I really want to say thank you so much as well to the church family, because I know that a number of members were praying on my behalf, and these prayers definitely did work and God came through for me. I also want to say a special thank you to a doctor among us who was like my personal doctor while I was at the hospital, and that is Brother Kerry Walker. Kerry took the best care of me possible. I mean, if I begin to tell you how good Kerry took care of me, I mean, it will cause me to get emotional, because at one point in time I said to him, I said, Kerry, you're like my big brother. Not a day would pass by, Kerry would come and look for me. He would call, you would message.
A text that kept me during this time. It's Philippians chapter 4, verses 6 and 7. It says, "Be careful for nothing, but in everything by prayer and supplication, with thanksgiving, let your requests be made unto God, and the peace of God, which passeth all understanding, shall keep your hearts and minds through Christ Jesus."
So I just want to say on behalf of my wife, my daughters, and I, thank you so much for your undying love and support and prayer during my difficult time.